Impact Wrestling Zone, Trey Miguel, Spider Trey coming at you live, and you are watching Count It Out with Mike and Tyler.
Well, we are live, pals, and welcome to another edition of the Bill Apter Seal of Approved Count It Out with Mike and Tyler. My name is Tyler, and I am joined, as always, by the one and only, they don't make them like you, buddy, Mojito Mike, repping full Bengals gear after a big win this week. Suck on that, Pittsburgh Steelers. Eat my short, Sean Gibson.
Suck it, Sean Gibson.
But we are not alone this week also because, of course, it is an Impact Wrestling list. And when we do Impact Wrestling, we have to bring on our Impact Wrestling analysis special correspondent, Coca-Cola Contant himself. Adam is here.
That's
one
Coke
open.
Zero Contant.
Oh, sorry, Coke Zero Contant. And, you know, I should know that because I just re-listened to our first ever year-end show with you on it. And I love it.
It's a very special edition. It's the Cherry Coke Zero Contant today. I'll crack one open for you, gentlemen. Here,
I'm drinking a Jack Daniels and Coke. Does that count?
just got Cherry Coke all over my new microphone. Awesome. Good way to start the show. Off to a great start. Thanks for having me, guys. Always great to be back here. And of course, you know, I love talking Impact Wrestling. So, hey, let's just jump right into it, man.
Yeah, well, Mike, you are going to be doing your list for the top 7 male performers, as I did not read in our group chat properly, for Impact Wrestling.
Yeah, man. This came about really funny. You know, we're getting closer to the end of the year. We're starting to work on our end of year show. And I started thinking, you know, instead of doing normal November stuff, I want to start ramping up the year. So my idea for this week was I was gonna do my top 7 favorite matches for the year, and like of all promotions. So I started writing down my list of matches. I wrote down maybe 7 or 8 WWE matches, a couple indie matches. Then I wrote down about, I want to say 16 Impact matches. And I said, well, fuck this. I said, this is gonna be too hard to break down. Maybe this week I'll do Impact matches, and then I'll do WWE matches after the new year. So I sat down and I thought about what my favorite matches of Impact were this year, and I wrote down 36 matches. Wow. So I said, okay, can't do this either. So I looked at that list and I saw all the people in that list, and I said, all right, I'm going to grab all the guys who keep appearing on this list, and I'm going to rank them on how their year went. And of course, that got harder because I had all these guys and all these amazing women, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to do the men. I think it's easier this time. We'll talk about the women on a different day because they deserve their own show. They don't deserve to. I can't just rank it that way because it just won't be fair. So we're just doing the 7 best males who had a great year in Impact Wrestling.
I like it. I'm excited to talk about this, especially with Adam here. Adam, we haven't had you on in a little while, man. How's things been in the world of you? How are you enjoying the Impact Wrestling product the last couple months?
I mean, come on, man. It just keeps getting better and better. Honestly, after Slammiversary this year, I did not think that Impact was going to be able to top that show. And lo and behold, Bound for Glory comes around. Was not as hyped for it as I was for Slammiversary. And yet at the end of the night, I was like, damn, man, that might have been the best pay-per-view that they have put on all year. It was phenomenal. I love the direction Impact is going in. And yeah, man, you know, I'm a little partisan. I'm a big old fan, but I just think the product just keeps getting better. The more momentum they keep building. And, you know, I'm here for the ride. I've been riding this train for a while, and it just keeps getting faster and better. And we're not making any stops, man. We're going all the way. As a matter of fact, so excited. I'm sure you guys are very much aware of this. They're finally coming home. Impact coming back to Canada, Windsor, Ontario, March 24th and 25th for Sacrifice Weekend. I've already got the titanium VIP, or as I like to call it, fanboy Mark tickets. So it's going to be a good time. I can't wait for the show. Me and a whole group of people, hopefully including you two, are going to be there,
we'll be
and
there.
we are going to get rowdy, so to speak.
Yes,
By hook or crook, we will be there.
Mike and I slacked, and we have not got our tickets yet. And as of today's recording, there's only 10 VIP tickets left for night 2. So we will not be fanboying
for night 1. Yeah.
So Adam, it will be up to you to get all the counted out show bumpers for us during your Impact Wrestling meet and greets.
I'll do everything that I can.
So,
but
Adam,
but we will be at that show. We are going to travel for that show for sure.
and I'm trying to twist the arm of our good friend Jonah to come to that show as well too. I've almost got him convinced. He's going to WrestleMania the week or two after that, so he's not sure. But like, he's coming from New York, and it's just in Detroit. It's a $80 flight. We looked it up. Hour and 40 minutes. Jump over the border and let's do it counted out style, Jonah. We're calling you out, bud. But Adam, I want to talk to you right now about something that's going on with Impact Wrestling. We're just coming off the great show that they did on the weekend here. We're going to talk about that in a bit of detail. We're going to talk a little bit about AEW, just a little bit though. But I want to talk about Josh Alexander with you, Adam. And I feel like you're the right man to ask about this. One of my, not complaints, because I don't have a complaint about Josh Alexander, but something I'm really happy that we're getting now with Bully Ray and Josh is getting a big name opponent to work with. From an in-ring standpoint, matches with guys like Kaz, who is a very big name, but he's not a Bully Ray level name. Guys like Moose, guys like Eddie Edwards and EY. He's knocking out of the park in all these matches. But how important do you think it is for Josh, to be in a program with a big name like Bully Ray?
I mean, when you're talking about the guy that's representing your company as the face, the guy who's going to be front and center of any potential new viewers or casual viewers who are hooked in by a name like a Bully Ray, it is very important to have him face that kind of recognizable star and defeat them. And, this is something I brought up about a year ago when Moose defeated him so quickly for the world title, and they prolonged his capturing of the championship. And I said back then, look, take a look at the quality of star power that he's going up against in the buildup to that. Former NXT North American champion Jonah, guys from Japan. I know he took on Ishii after Moose, but he was taking on New Japan stars.
Suzuki as well.
Yeah, he took on and defeated Suzuki, Christian Cage, Charlie Haas, Big Khan. Like, yeah, sure, some of those names wouldn't exactly be headlining WrestleMania, but some of those guys are legitimate Hall of Famers. And, the importance of having Josh Alexander defeat these guys it cannot be understated. And then from an Impact side of things, you're taking on guys like Eddie Edwards and Eric Young and the like, and defeating them handedly, clean in some of the match of the year candidates. It's no coincidence that Josh Alexander is getting name stars to beat, because he's the man. And you've already given him the second longest reign of any Impact World Champion, possibly even the first before all is said and done. And when you got a guy like that in the history books, you're going to want fans to look back and say, wow, look at the laundry list of legends that this guy has defeated. Like, I mean, I don't want to say this to sound condescending, but it's not rocket science, right? Have your star beat the other stars. That's how you make stars. I know it's not the kind of logical booking that we've seen all that often from wrestling in North America over the last, couple of decades, but that's how stars are made.
Yeah, I agree. And Mike, I got a question I want to throw to you here in a second, but I do agree. I think that the one thing, and I'm going to say missing, because you did name some really impressive names there, but I think Josh had just been missing that big superstar name, multi-time Hall of Famer, one of the greatest tag team wrestlers of all time. Bubba Ray Dudley, Bully Ray is one of the biggest names in professional wrestling. And I think that this is nothing but good to keep adding that credibility to Josh's already impressive reign. Now, you did mention the second longest reign in Impact Wrestling history right now. He just passed AJ Styles. Mike, is Josh Alexander going to break Bobby Roode's record?
Yes.
Cool.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Yeah.
And that is our show this week. Thank you very much.
I have no reason to think otherwise right now, because to your point, they're putting him up against his biggest opponent right now in Bully Ray. Why are they doing that? To solidify the fact that he's the fucking man. They're not going to give him that to take it away anytime soon. Because now anybody who goes against him is going up against the fucking man. So yes, Josh is going to end up being the longest reigning Impact champion. He's also going to be the face of this company for quite a while. Health, of course, allowing. I have no doubt in my mind that that's Scotty's vision for the company is Josh being front and center right now. So I don't see that title leaving Josh anytime before 2024.
So I want to put you both on the spot right now. And if you guys had the pen and you're Scotty, who is the person that you think should take the belt off Josh when the time is right?
Johnny Swinger.
Boom. Mic drop.
In all seriousness, I mean, I think honestly, the guy that makes the most sense looking at the current Impact landscape has got to be Steve Macklin.
Steve Macklin is my choice as well.
Because the guy has got so much momentum right now.
Mm-hmm.
His work is impressive every time he's gone out there. I'm sure we're going to be talking about him a little bit later. We should be talking about him a little bit later, Mike.
He even made my list, and I don't even watch a lot of Impact, and he made my list. So
the guy is really impressive. And if there's any young upstart on the company roster right now that could really give Josh a run for his money and believably beat him, probably by crook as opposed to hook, it would be him. The only other name that I would potentially put there, and this is only if he really gets very popular, and this is a far dark horse long shot, I could see PCO maybe taking it off of him, but only just because that guy has had a hell of a year too. And I think he had a really banner year in Impact this year. And if his momentum continues to build, he could be a dark horse contender. But honestly, I think it's Macklin, and then it's everybody else.
No, let me take the hot seat for a minute there, Tyler, and throw something at the two of you. Talk about people who couldn't beat Josh recently. We saw a phenomenal, probably a match of the year candidate in Josh versus Frankie Kazarian just over the weekend. At the very end, we seen a very upset yet, defeated Frankie Kazarian, understanding he lost the championship and walking away. Was this a swan song for Frankie? Is he saying goodbye? That's what I got from the end of this match. Was Frankie, and if your answer is yes, is he saying goodbye to Impact, or is he getting ready to tie it up?
I don't think so. I just think he's dejected after losing the title, and he's going to be right back to AEW on Dark and every now and then Rampage and Dynamite, right? Okay. He's under contract to them. As far as a swan song to Impact, I think for the foreseeable future, yes, but I don't think he's ever gonna. I think he will finish his career with a match in Impact Wrestling personally.
Well, and that I was wondering if that's what we just saw happen.
I think it's not a goodbye, it's a see you down the road.
Yeah.
Frankie's going to take a little bit of a break. Like Impact, we've talked about this before. They're smart enough to know, like, to give their talent a breather so that not only do they stay fresh with the company, but they stay fresh with fans as well. I think this is a good point in time for Frankie to take a step back, go back to work with AEW for a little while, get fresh again, and then come back later down the line when he's good and ready and the fans are ready to welcome him back again.
The one thing, and I've always said this about Impact Wrestling, is I love how they have that kind of territory vibe to them where they rotate people in and out. A guy like Jonah comes in for 6 months, has a great run, see you later. W. Morrissey, same thing, right? I like that. You build up a monster, you get someone, you get them to put somebody over, make them bigger, come back in a couple months fresh again. Last question I have, and I want to turn it over to you, Mike, to take us through the pay-per-view on the weekend. We mentioned the return to Canada coming for Impact Wrestling. Do you guys see a scenario where it is beneficial to maybe have Josh drop the belt leading up to that event, to have him win it back on his home turf, to make him kind of seem like a bigger star with that crowd pop that he would get doing that. Maybe that's a chance where, you guys mentioned a PCO, to have PCO maybe upset him for the belt, for Josh to win it back on Canadian soil. Does that help him? Does that hurt him?
No, I don't think it does either. I think he's going to get that pop one way or the other. He's going to get that pop coming in with the belt. He's going to get that pop leaving with the belt. It doesn't matter. Your specific scenario, I don't think works because PCO is going to get fucking popped in Canada. All right, so you don't put him up against Josh. You just don't.
Yeah, but in Windsor,
though,
in Windsor, that's Josh's stomping ground. You know what I mean?
I get it, but I what I mean by that is I think you let PCO get his pop somewhere else. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
don't give them a chance to boo PCO.
So,
but
Adam,
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, Mike. I cut you off. I apologize.
No, it's cool. I'm just to finalize answering your question. I don't think you take it off Josh. I think you let Josh march into Canada with it. You let Josh march out of Canada with it. I think that's what us, as my good friend Adam would say, bloodthirsty Canadians, that's what we want to see. We want to see our champion come in with what he deserves and leave with what he deserves.
So the reason why I pose this, and Adam, I want your take on this before I get your answer as well. One of the criticisms that people have about Impact Wrestling is that the way that it's shot or the way that it sounds, they don't really capitalize on that crowd atmosphere. To have that visual, and in Windsor, that crowd is going to be rocking. It's going to be a full house. It's going to be ruckus. To have that visual and that sound of Josh getting the win, holding up that championship as the new champion, it reminds me of when George St. Pierre lost the belt to Matt Serra and went to Montreal and won it back. Does that help him? Does it hurt him? Do you think they should just keep the belt on him and let him walk in like Mike said?
In a hypothetical scenario, I think that there's a couple of things that I would want to address with the statement that you said. Number one, I don't think it has anything to do with the volume of the crowd, because I have firsthand accounts from somebody who works for the company that has said the crowds are raucous everywhere they go and they're loud everywhere they go. Impact just needs to change up their production value. And honestly, you can see this if you watched Bound for Glory. It was a different setup. The sound was great. Production on Bound for Glory was head and shoulders above every other show that was on the Impact calendar. I don't know what was different. I don't know if they were using a different company or different crew, whatever, but you heard the crowd during Bound for Glory. And honestly, the atmosphere was one of the reasons it was one of the best shows that they had all year, because you could actually hear how passionate the Impact crowd was. Now, that being said, if you're going to do something special in Windsor for the return, honestly, I'd have Josh get beat for the belt in Windsor. Wow. Because as much as we love our Canadians, boy, do we ever get mad when somebody does us dirty. And I'll tell you something, that hometown heat is real. Not to mention that Windsor is kind of a cursed territory for Impact champions. Let's not forget, this is where Raven got screwed out of the NWA world title by Jeff Jarrett. It's where Brian Cage lost the Impact title to Sami Callihan in a steel cage. Hey, why not keep the tradition going and have Josh Alexander maybe get screwed out of the Impact world title by Macklin in the return to Canada? I mean, you want an impressive visual. Sure, Alexander getting cheered by his countrymen is great. Steve Macklin getting covered in garbage as he holds the Impact world title over the fellow Canadian. Now that's a visual.
You want to get the double heat, get Perazo to beat Mickey James the same night and retire.
She might get cheered for that though, just because we are so bloodthirsty.
That's
and we'd be like, yeah, we got our last match. Yeah.
We're bastards.
And I kind of want to put an exclamation mark to Adam's point about the production versus the crowd. Adam and I can attest. We Adam and I both attended the last time they were in Canada at Rebellion in 2019. Now the venue wasn't huge. They played the Rebel, which is essentially a nightclub, but it's not a huge venue. But I'll tell you right now, and Adam, you tell me if you saw something different that night. That crowd was fucking unglued, especially during matches such as the ladder match or the
Full Metal Mayhem.
Thank you, Full Metal Mayhem, and the main event with Johnny Impact versus Brian Cage. The crowd was insane. I have gone back and watched that match on Impact Plus. You don't see what we saw. I promise you, you do not see on television what Adam and I saw in person. You just don't. So I have to agree with Adam from firsthand experience that they do need to do something to their production to let the fans at home know what the fans in the crowd are seeing and feeling, because we're not getting that.
And if I may do a quick plug there, that's a great reason for you to get your tickets to Impact when they come to your city or town or country, as it were, in Canada. So if you are thinking about going to an Impact show, or if you've never experienced an Impact show, get your tickets. Come to St. Clair College, March 24th and 25th. I guarantee you it will be one of the best wrestling shows you've ever experienced, because that was what it was for me and Mike. Rebellion 2019, legit top 3 probably best wrestling shows I've ever been to, and that's on a list that includes WrestleMania. So
were they not doing the full week tapings the night after back then, or did we just drop the ball and not get tickets?
No, they weren't doing TV tapings.
They weren't doing that back then.
That time.
Okay, cool.
Also,
I'm like, fuck, why didn't we do that?
Come say hi to Count It Out when you're coming by to Windsor too. We'll either do a live show or we'll be drunk in the bar and put on a show. It doesn't matter.
One or the other.
Also, I do wish they would go back to that Rebel nightclub, because it looked amazing on TV.
It was a great venue. I love that venue. One last thing I want to say before we get into breaking down these two pay-per-views over the weekend. If we're going to talk about who loves Impact Wrestling, Count It Out loves Impact Wrestling, because I did a little while breaking down our 2022, while talking about the year we just had. I realized that including 2 of the people coming on for the year-end show, Tyler, you and I have had conversations with 13 different current and former Impact talent, during the year 2022. 13. That's more than one a month. That's fantastic. Look at us in Impact. We love Impact. Ross.
We're best friends.
Impact.
Speaking of the 13th, January 13th is Impact Wrestling's Hard to Kill pay-per-view, where Josh Alexander will face Bully Ray. So, if you want to promote that show, Ross, you could have a couple of guys come on and make it number 14, 15, 16, whatever you want.
Yeah.
They'll be happy to have you on.
Oh yeah, I'll weasel my way. I'm like the cockroach of Impact Wrestling. I always weasel my way under those media scrums. Even if D'Lo Brown thinks my name is Taylor, I don't care. I'll take it.
Oh my God, that was the best.
Better than Sammy Callahan calling you Constant.
You've also been called Mike, have you not?
Also, I just want to say I'm sorry, Sammy Callahan. Please don't come to my house and make me bleed. Thank you.
Some people are into that. Let's talk about the card a little bit, Mike. I don't want to go match for match. I don't think we need to break down every single match, but what were some of the highlights of the card for you guys? Obviously, the main event.
I'll definitely give you my highlights. We'll save the main event for a few minutes because that's the obvious, like I said, match of the year contender for me. But one of my highlights of the whole evening, I'll be perfectly honest, Trey Miguel versus Black Taurus. Not only am I a big fan of both guys, they're both the guys I wanted to see in the finals. I could have flipped a coin with Mike Bailey or Trey Miguel, to be perfectly honest. I wanted one of those 2 guys in the finals against Black Taurus. I knew I wanted Black Taurus in the finals. I was convinced that he was going to walk away with that title. What I wasn't convinced of was that Trey Miguel was going to pull a heel turn. Man, surprise of the year for this guy. I did not have Trey Miguel heel turn on my bingo card in 2022. I sure didn't. But damn, was it a welcome surprise. When he pulled out that spray can, perfect way for him to do it. I love it. I love everything about it. What do you think about that moment, Adam?
This was a great surprise, a welcome surprise for myself. Huge Trey Miguel fan. You guys know Miguel's my boy, and anything that gets him more TV time, gets something for him to put his teeth into, I'm all for it. And I've loved watching Trey Miguel as the scrappy underdog for years. Now I'm real interested to see what he does as, the jilted heel in this particular scenario. So just call me curious, call me intrigued, and call me excited for the future of the X Division with your new X Division champion. I'm all in.
I am not known to have the best recollection of our group chats or to even fully read messages, hence today and my confusion. But I do believe that I did pick Trey Miguel to be the winner in our group chat. Just put
Yeah,
it out there.
I believe you're the only one. Yeah. I totally went for Tarus, and you can see why when you watch this match. Nobody, nobody his size has business fucking moving like that. You know, I was watching the match. My wife had taken my son out for a date, and when they got home, that's the match that was on. And Finn asked me before he went to bed, can he watch one wrestling match with Daddy? I said, yeah. I said, you can watch this one match. I'm taking you to bed. And we watched Trey Miguel versus Black Taurus. And he looks at me and he says, Daddy, who's the hairy black man? Yeah.
I said, well, son, that is Mantar Jr.
I said, well, that's Black Taurus. And he spent the rest of the match going, go Taurus, go Taurus, go Taurus. And it was a father of the year moment for me. I was so happy. And then Trey Miguel won, and my kid was pissed off. My kid went to bed mad. It was great. Now he knows what it feels like to be a true wrestling fan, and I love that.
You got to teach them. You got to teach them young so they can be ready for the future. The cruel future of being a wrestling fan will do to you.
Another highlight for me, seeing Mickey James and Taylor Wilde. Taylor still got it. That was nice to see. Really enjoyed that match. I will agree with Adam to a point that he made earlier this week. Jordan Grace and Masha Slamovich had a fantastic match. I think it just came short of their last match, though. I agree. Believe it. It just came short of their match at Bound for Glory.
Yeah, the Bound for Glory match, I think, was a match that exceeded expectations, and I think this match just missed the mark of the expectations, and that's only because they had such a banger at Bound for Glory that I think I can only speak to myself personally, but my expectations for the last Knockout Standing match were like at a 15, and they gave us a 12. So still, above and beyond anything else, but just didn't quite get to my own personal expectations. This is a match that I think I'm going to watch back in 6 months and realize, damn, that match was so much better than I gave it credit for at the time. Just, when you have certain expectations, sometimes you as the fan set it up for failure, if that makes any sense.
Also, for anybody that did listen to our interview with Jordan Grace prior to Bound for Glory, she did end up messaging Mike, everybody, and she is the best human being ever.
I love her so much.
I will say that one thing that I wasn't expecting, that I was also happy to see, was Jordan retain. I'm so happy to see them running with Jordan as hard as they possibly can. Yeah, man. I hope her reign is a Rick and Morty reign. 100 years, 100 episodes, forever and ever, 100 years.
And what I love about this is because they booked her so strong, it doesn't hurt Masha. You know what I mean? We're still, you can still believe that Masha Slamovich is indestructible moving forward. She'll still go up against every other knockout and fucking tear them apart. And no one's going to sit there like, yeah, but she lost to Jordan. No, she didn't just lose to Jordan. She lost to the Knockouts champion, the juggernaut, Jordan fucking Grace. That's who she lost to. So because she's been booked so fucking strong and she's been running so strong, Masha Slamovich is safe still, which is awesome because she is a great character. She's going to continue to be, in that top 3 level knockout right there, right?
Even Superman has his kryptonite.
I have 2 quick points I want to make there. Number one, if before I misread that list and thought we were doing top 7 Impact wrestlers of the year, I did have Masha as my number 7 on the list. I thought she had a great year.
Yeah, agreed.
And for me, part of my criteria looking at the list was somebody like Masha, who I didn't know anything about Masha before this year started. And she's on my radar now. And to me, that's impressive.
100%.
Especially with all the good wrestling that we're getting this year. For someone to rise up and get on radar like that and have bangers like that, that's a big impressive one.
And I think Impact is phenomenal for that, because I could say the same for Killer Kelly, who wasn't on my radar at the beginning of this year. And look at her now. I'm not talking about this year, but in the past, Tasha Steeles wasn't on my radar in the beginning of that particular year. And then midway through the year, I'm like, holy fuck, Tasha Steeles is going to be one of the biggest knockouts of all time. And now, you want to talk about Tasha Steeles. Savannah Evans was not on my radar by the end of last year. And look at her now. They have been phenomenally pushing the knockouts division 100%.
The second point I want to make very quickly is I think that we stumbled upon something here on Count It Out, and I've heard both women's take on this, but I think that Jordan and Mickey is where we're going to see the last rodeo come to an end.
If anyone can do it, it's her.
And I had been saying that for a long time. Then I changed my tune because once I found out that Masha was going for a second round, I said, okay, this is Masha. Maybe it's Masha who's going to end the last rodeo. But no, now I'm back on the Grace train, and it's going to be Jordan that finally puts down Mickey James. The question is when. That's the only question.
We are manifesting this on Count It Out. We're stirring the pot. We've got both ladies' takes on it, and
because the way things are going, I'm wondering if Hard to Kill is too early.
I think it's too early.
Yeah,
I think it's true. I think we got a couple months still.
Do you wait all the way to Slammiversary?
If they can keep strong challengers for Mickey, then yes.
Yeah.
They're going through a lot of challengers already for her pretty quick. So who knows?
But we already talked about how much you guys love how Impact, has a rotating door. So that's not saying that somebody isn't going to come in a few months, and with their relationships with other companies, there's a lot of people that could still come in, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And we still have not seen one person, because she's been busy. Well, two people really get involved in the storyline. I can't wait to see Rosemary tangle it up with Mickey a bit. And with that said, Taya Valkyrie.
Yeah.
So there's still a lot to do with Mickey, I think.
Absolutely.
Before we really quickly talk about the main event, do either one of you have a match that really stands out for you for this card that we haven't talked about?
I think we kind of ran down everything that I wanted to highlight on the show. I mean, like I said, great show overall, but I think we've hit the high spots. Kaz and
I'll
tell you right now,
machine guns. I like the machine guns.
Yeah, it was a good match. I'll tell you right now, my favorite match from last week, other than the championship match, happened the night before the Overdrive, and that was Sami Callihan versus Eric Young. That I don't know if you saw that, Tyler, but
I have not. No, I saw the aftermath of it though.
The double Jeopardy match was fun as fuck. I enjoyed it. I loved it. I thought the premise of it was silly as fuck, but that's Impact for you. They take something stupid and silly and actually make you like it. They have a real fucking niche for that, which I love. It was a great match, and then they gave that great cliffhanger of Cody Khan and Angel standing over top their fallen leader, just giving him a disgusted look. I love it. I fucking love it. And that's the kind of shit that makes me can't wait for Thursday night.
Disgusting is definitely the word to describe it. That was gross. The amount of blood that those two guys just poured all over the ring was absolutely sickening.
I'm very excited for babyface Eric Young. I think it's a great time for that turn.
Me too. And talking about people turning face and heel, let's really quickly do the main event. Man, I'm not going to go too far into this because if you haven't seen it, just shut the fuck up and go watch it. It is one of the best matches Impact is professional wrestling has put on all year.
I think it was the best match of the weekend out of the two big shows.
100%. Frankie Kazarian still has it, man. He's been doing this shit for what? Well over 20 years now, and he's still fucking got it. Frankie is still one of the best in the world, and he brought the best out in Josh, and Josh brought the best out of him. I loved it. It was exactly what I wanted out of an Impact Championship match. Not a lot of guys can go 40 minutes and hold my attention, but they did it. And then I want to talk about the aftermath. What were you expecting the heel turn to happen already, Adam? We're talking about Bully Ray, of course.
No, honestly, I thought they were going to do the full-on Bully Ray does cash in, does take advantage, and says, because you have to understand the thing he keeps saying throughout the entire time since he's back is, do you know who I am?
Yeah.
And they keep saying it. He keeps hitting that line over and over and over again. And in my head, all I could see is like, oh, they're going to use that in a video package when he does do the cash in and he like screws Alexander out of the title. That's what they're going to do. They're going to do a video package and it's just going to be him constantly saying, do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? And showing like, you didn't learn your lesson. Now, that being said, they could still do that for, using what they did on at Overdrive as part of that video package, because it was brutal. Like I talked about the double Jeopardy match being disgusting. The angle they shot post main event was uncomfortable. And I had people who were watching the show with me who told me they had nightmares this weekend about Bully Ray pile driving them on concrete. So, I mean, if that doesn't tell you, the caliber of heel that we're working with and the effectiveness of the story they're telling, I don't know what will.
I thought that I don't know if it was supposed to happen or not. I don't think that zip tie was supposed to break like with Josh, but I think that it made it better that it did break the way that they. I mean,
the fact that you don't know.
Yeah. To me, like I'm just thinking like I'm my wrestling mind that I have, like you're the visual is you're handcuffed, your wife is helpless, hold the belt up. The fact that zip tag broke and Bully Ray was like, don't move or I'll get her, like that put it over the top to me. Yeah, I thought that was great.
And if you're right, and that did break on accident, great thinking on Bully Ray's part and great acting on Josh's part. They both did exactly what they should have done.
The only question I have, and I'm really excited, and I'm going to use the word excited because I'm excited to hear Bully Ray talk on the next episode of Impact, because, I want to know why he didn't just cash in and take the belt like a true piece of shit heel that he would do. I'm really interested to hear his explanation as to why he didn't do that and why he's calling that shot, because to me, like, it's just such a great heel move. Oh, I would never do that. I'll do it to your face. I'll shake your hand and then be like, fuck you, I'm Bully Ray. Why would you trust me? So I'm excited for this build now to see where it's going to go.
I mean, I think that I can speak for everybody when I say that, we're all going to have high expectations heading into Hard to Kill. And I don't think there's going to be a match as anticipated in terms of Josh Alexander championship defenses than this one. I think this is probably the most anticipated title defense of Josh Alexander's run so far.
I really hope that we see that killer instinct come out of Josh. And I want to see it more than what it did with the Moose feud, because the one thing that kind of bothered me about the Moose feud, when we did the media rounds with Josh, and anytime anyone would bring up, is this personal to you, he downplayed it. I've got my head on, I'm focused, blah, 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 blah. I don't want to see that. I want to see you put your hands on my wife, I'm going to kill you. Like, I want to see that intensity come out of Josh for this one.
Agreed.
And I want to see Bully Ray bleed, motherfucker. Make him bust him open, make him pay.
Friday, January 13th, live on Fight.
That's things we want to talk about. Let's talk about things we don't want to see. And I don't care about AEW. So, Tyler, you tell me the things that you liked this weekend, because I didn't watch any of it. I didn't care to. So let's not have me bury a product and have you talk about it like it's a good thing.
Listen, I'm not going to sit here and say that I'm an AEW fanboy, but I watched the show. It was there. I had time. I skimmed through it.
Anybody who watched television a couple months ago would say otherwise.
Well, that's fair. I was front row singing Judas at the top of my lungs, but I mean, I'm a Judas mark and I'm a Jericho mark. I also think that myself and Van Landen and our friend Jordan started the best chant of all time that hasn't gotten picked up when we chanted "Wrestling Sucks" at the Jericho Appreciation Society. A huge pop for myself on that one. And Anna J and the other two guys, they really, Daddy, what's his name? I don't know, Daddy Magic or whatever the hell they're calling them. Either way, those guys loved it and they were popping huge for it. So suck it, wrestling fans. We're smart. But in all seriousness, AEW, they had a lot of pressure, in my opinion, on this show, because let's be real, their fucking company has been a complete and utter shit show the last 5 months. And I gotta say, this is probably one of their better shows they've done in a long time. My constant complaint with AEW is that their shows are way too long. Even with only having 13 matches, including the dark stuff, it still went almost 5 hours. Like, that's way too long to be in the wrestling stuff. A couple cool things, though, I did like about the show. On the pre-show, Eddie Kingston got to fight Jun Akiyama in a one-on-one match. And that was really cool for Eddie because, like, Jun is one of his wrestling heroes. So to see that emotion come out of Eddie, I just thought it was, I like Eddie Kingston, so I like that he got that moment, and that meant a lot to him. I like that they've started calling Jungle Boy Jack Perry permanently now as well. I think that's a nice evolution to his character. Their cage match was okay. The big story was the return of the Elite with the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega coming back. I like that they came out to Wayward Son. That was a fun intro. You know, you get your classic Kenny Omega Young Bucks trios match where it is awesome, but it's a spot fest and the crowd was losing their mind for it. Not my favorite. I'm not a big fan of those trios type matches, but this one was really good, and they're going to do the best of 7 now, which I think might be overkill, but who knows? I could be wrong. Other than that, I just want to talk about the main event. Oh, Samoa Joe won the TNT title. I like that he's double champ now. That makes me happy because I love Samoa Joe. But I want to just talk about the main event, the crowning of MJF, William Regal turning heel. I think that's a great pairing. But I'm not on the MJF bandwagon right now that everybody else is. I think since he's come back, since the All Out pay-per-view, I've absolutely hated his booking. I did not get behind babyface MJF, and it's because we all knew that the heel turn was going to come, which is okay. It's okay to know where the end is going to be and still get there. It didn't make sense to me that he would even pretend to be a babyface because he's just such a dick. Like, it was just so uncharacteristic that it wasn't believable enough for me. I didn't like his post-show press conference. Everybody else is raving about it. I love the point that you made. Mike and I were talking off air earlier today. Mike made a great point. Tony Khan, is your company going to be one that Jungle Boy sells t-shirts to? Or is it going to be one where MJF is going to come out and say motherfucker all the time? He'd fit in great with an episode of You and Danny on The Lasting Mark, but I don't think that should be on your AEW TV. I don't like it's cheap heat to me. MJF is way too talented to have to lower himself to dropping motherfucker bombs like that all the time. I just, especially now that you're the face of the company, you can't do that. You're on national television.
And I think you just said it right there. It's not needed. He doesn't need to do it to get over. He really doesn't. And the company doesn't need it to get over. Listen, there's times and places. If I want to watch GCW, I'm expecting to see some motherfuckers. All right? Because I'm watching a bunch of fucking out of shape fucking bank robbers fucking throw each other through fucking flaming tables and shit. It's a time and place. GCW is the time and place for that shit. That's cool. GCW, nobody's buying a G-Raver t-shirt for their fucking 8-year-old. AEW, except for possibly Danny franchise.
You're buying a G-Raver t-shirt right now to help him post bail, apparently. But,
True enough.
That's a different story.
But AEW, if they really think that they're in this market to compete with WWE, and like I said earlier, on one hand they want to sell those t-shirts, they want to get those kids to get their parents to buy them tickets and sell their wrestling buddies, but then they want to go and say, fucking motherfucker and shit like that. Again, there's a line. I have no problem. I know I bitched about it a few weeks ago because I hate it, but go out and do the fucking scissor me daddy shit, fine. Because it's all implied, it's all whatever. A parent can kind of brush that over. It's very much like the Attitude Era. There was kids watching the Attitude Era too. But
we were those kids.
Yes, but they weren't I wish I wasn't a kid. Fuck, I'm old. But there's lines. They weren't dropping motherfuckers. And when they were censored and they were well placed. Steve Austin would drop an F-bomb here and there, but you didn't know it. And now just seeing how just non-caring they seem to be. They just don't give a shit with especially with these stupid media scrums, which are just unbearable to watch now because all they are is a way for them. I was going to say for the heels, but it's the faces too, just to come out and act like complete fucking idiots. Listen,
Mike, we can't bury media scrums. We're part of the media scrum
yeah.
team for Destiny Pro Wrestling right now. Media scrums
Listen,
are awesome.
We're not trying to sell fucking t-shirts to little kids, so I'm going to come on my show.
Hey, I will sell a fucking t-shirt to whoever will buy one. All right, my mortgage is continuously going up. I'm
going to come on my show and say motherfucker all I want, but I'm not a publicly traded company. I'm not, making billion. I'm not trying to do $1 million gates, and I'm not trying to put kids in my fucking seats. I think it's a bad business decision.
Like, I don't think AEW is trying to cater to kids either. But I mean, you're on national TV. You're too big for motherfuckers. You know what I mean? You're better than that. And I will say,
Adam, you've been uncharacteristically quiet here. Are we rambling like idiots here? Do we have a point, or are you completely on a different page?
I think you guys made the point, which is that Counted Out needs to make a too big to motherfucker t-shirt.
I love that.
Get up the design, somebody. Send it into Pro Wrestling Tees.
I'm gonna call Jason Reeves right after the show.
I will say I do think that this show was definitely a thumbs up show and much needed for AEW's reputation. I also think that I'm not sold on that we're never going to see CM Punk back in AEW. But I'm just seeing all these little things now. Like they really focused on the fuck CM Punk chant on being the elite this week. CM Punk's starting to make little comments on his MMA commentary. I think Homicide said it best, and I don't remember if we were talking off air or on air about this, but do business, guys, because CM Punk coming back as a heel would be humongous money for your company. You all say you love AEW, Young Bucks, and Kenny, and Punk. You say you want to change wrestling. Grow the fuck up, everybody. Make some big money. Let's get it done. But whatever. That's AEW. I don't want to talk too much more about them. I think that this show was good for them. Hopefully they can get rid of the stink they've had and finish the year out strong. Because, wrestling's awesome and we want everyone to do well.
Hey, do you want to do a list?
Yeah.
And
is that what we're here to do? Oh, all right. Well,
and we didn't bring on the Impact guy to talk about AEW. I'll tell you that much.
Are you sure? Swerve. Heel turn on Counted Out.
Motherfucker.
Turns out I am the third man.
We are actually. I was gonna say
It was me, Con. It was me all along.
We're swerving Adam, and I'm actually doing the top 7 Impact AEW wrestlers of the year. Not.
Boo.
I'd be pretty useless on that list.
Yeah. Speaking of which, let's do it, man. We are counting down, in my opinion, the top 7 male performers in Impact Wrestling in 2022. Let me throw out some criteria here. What I use for this list, first and foremost, because it is Impact and because I do think that they're putting on the best wrestling matches out there today, I definitely use match quality. To be on this list, you have to have some of my favorite matches of the year. With that said, how you're being booked has a lot to do with it. Your ability to tell a great story has a lot to do with it. Like I was talking to Tyler Raphael earlier, and I said every guy on this list has to be able to have the ability to make me say, "Holy fuck, I have to watch on Thursday." I said that about Eric Young and Violent by Design earlier. That ending where Violent by Design is staring down Eric Young, that made me say, holy fuck, I can't wait until Thursday. All 7 people on this list have that ability. Where they are on the list tells you how big that ability is. And that's where we will start. We are going to start with my number 7. And the main reason he's on the list is not because he's had my favorite match of the year, but because his storyline made me want to watch every week for the longest time. We're starting off with Eddie Edwards.
Nice. Yeah. I'm okay with
I
this.
think I don't know why I almost said right to censor. Honor No More was one of my favorite storylines in 2022, hands down. And Eddie joining Honor No More was a big part of that. Eddie's pushed through this obsession he had with saying he wanted to bring Honor back to Impact when he was obviously doing the heel thing when we always knew all he wanted to do was get himself over. The stuff he did with Josh was phenomenal. His feud with PCO near the end, fantastic. Like I said, he didn't really. I'll list off a couple of matches he did have that I really enjoyed, but he definitely wasn't having my favorite matches of the year by any means. He definitely had a great match with Steve Macklin, Rhino, Ishii. He went over in that big 6-way that got him his title in the first place. But what he did really well this year was had some really great tag team matches. Him and the OGK, they had a lot of great 6-mans. Them versus the Motor City Machine Guns versus Frank Kazarian was phenomenal. Them versus Heath, Rhino, and Josh was great. So I think he was telling great stories all year long. Does Eddie make anybody else's list?
I'll say this, Eddie kind of flew under the radar for me on my list. And even though he was a big player for Impact this year, there were just too many guys that I felt were ahead of him in terms of both impact, pardon the pun, and match quality. I mean, Eddie did have one of the best matches of the year with Josh Alexander, Bound for Glory. Absolutely no question about it. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend that maybe I'm in the wrong on this one. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me. Maybe it is in this case, because he flew under the radar. And maybe that's why he's not on my list, is because when I think back to like the guys who really made a big splash this year, and he didn't come to mind immediately. And even when I looked back at everything, I was like, 10-man tag, 10-man tag, 10-man tag. And I don't feel like, I feel like the problem with Honor No More is that their whole was not equal to the sum of their parts. And I think, unfortunately, that meant although there was some incredible talent in there, it didn't give them the opportunity to stand out and shine as individuals. They were, their shine was as a group, not as not as individuals, with the exception of maybe one other guy that may or may not be coming up later. So I'll leave it alone. But I think if there was one guy that stood out head and shoulders above in this group, though, I wouldn't have said it was Edwards. So look, I get your reasoning, and you have valid points. So I'll say that wasn't as strong of a he didn't rub off on me as much as he did on you, but I'm not going to fight you on this one.
Tyler, what say you?
I actually agree with Adam on almost everything you said, but your points, Mike, make me put him in the. I had a hard spot with my number 7 between a couple people, and now you've made me think that Eddie has a shot at that number 7 as well. But I do agree that Eddie, not lost in the shuffle, but like you said, that Honor No More group was a unit, so it was tough for them to stand out. And outside of his Josh Max match, I can't think of anything off the top of my head that would put him above everybody else in that group. But
go watch his match. Go watch his match with Ishii. He had some. Really
100%. And you've given me some thought that I could sub him into a number 7 spot. So I'm not going to fight you on it at all.
Well, I'm glad you're not going to fight me on this, because you will fight me on my number 6. I don't think anybody's going to argue with me that this man belongs on the list. I do think I will catch some heat for his placement, but I will justify it, and I will give my reasoning. My number 6 is Moose.
Okay, yeah. He was my number 7, so I mean...
Okay. I honestly thought... when I told you I was going to do this list, you said my list should be Josh, and Moose. So
I just tried to think of anybody that wasn't Josh and threw in there, but
the reason Moose is so low on my list is I find that after April, after he dropped the title to Josh, I'm not going to say he floundered, but he just kind of got lost a bit. He did his stuff with Sammy, and then he was doing the stuff with Sammy and Callahan, and then he just kind of that was just doing his thing, and he didn't do anything out there for me. But the stuff he did, the matches he had, I'm just going to list some matches that he had this year that is the reason he's on this list. He had a great match with W. Morrissey. He had 2 great matches with Josh. A few great matches with Sammy Callahan. A great tag team match I really enjoyed with him and Macklin versus Decay, Steven Tarus. Great match with Bully Ray. I know a lot of people don't like the fact that Bully went over, but I enjoyed the match. And a great match with Ace Austin not long ago. So he had some really good matches. I just think that he came into the year very strong, and then just kind of petered out. Adam, will go to you first.
Well, when I made my initial list, Moose was my number 6 spot. So very much aligned with what you were at.
Okay. All right.
But now he's my number 3. So
Oh,
did a little bit of research and a little bit of thinking about it. And I cannot agree with you on this one just because Moose's first half of 2022 was so phenomenally strong. You mentioned some great matches with Morrissey, but let's not forget he had that really great, I think really underrated triple threat match with Morrissey and Cardona at Hard to Kill. I think he got and I also think
Heath too.
I was about to say, and I think the match he had with Heath also is underrated. I think he got a lot out of Heath that a lot of people weren't expecting from him. And here's the thing, I do want to address the latter half of the year because yes, after he lost the championship, he wasn't back in the main event scene, but he also had a really great contest with Callahan at Slammiversary and against all odds where he beat Callahan in that Clockwork Orange House of Fun match. Barbed Wire Massacre, like the guy is still in the mix of big important matches. And Victory Road, that Barbed Wire Massacre, he was still the main event. Like regardless of whether he has the belt or not, Moose is in a spot where he's being featured, and he's being featured as a player. Let's not forget like the phenomenal contest he had with Willie Mack at the start of the year. Like, I mean, the guy is just putting on match after match after match where he's consistent. And every time he is out there and he performs, people are like, yo, that was a good match. Like Moose delivers every single time. He's consistent. And, for a guy to hold the top prize in the company for the first half of the year and for the second half, be consistently at the top of the card, putting on banger after banger, to me, that's a franchise guy. Moose, the blessing and the curse of Moose is that he's so damn good that in the moment when you watch him, you think, my God, how is this guy not the face of the company? And then you realize that he may not be the face of the company, but he is a franchise player for Impact
100%.
Wrestling.
I agree with that.
And he's so good that Impact knows they do not have to heap a lot of time on him. They don't have to do a lot with Moose. They just let Moose go out there and do his thing, and Moose delivers. And that's the blessing and the curse, is that he's reliable and he's consistent. And every time you put him on there, he's going to put on a damn good show. But that also means you can afford to be a little lazy with him in the booking and the promotion of him. And unfortunately, that means fans sometimes tend to forget about him. Like I said, when I first thought this out, just purely based upon my own thoughts and memories, I put him low on the list. Only when I went back and said, oh, that was a banger. Oh, that was a banger. Oh, that was a banger. Do I realize, damn, he needs to be higher. So I'm going to disagree with the placement, but I'm glad he's on there because he definitely deserves it. I am a member of Moose Nation.
I want to say something. Come on. I have 2 things I'd like to say. The first one is anybody that doesn't think that Bully Ray should have went over Moose at the pay-per-view in that tables match needs to give their head a shake. First of all, it's a tables match. Moose is protected. Second of all, everything Adam just said gives Bully Ray more credit being the world title champion. Third of all, he's going to face for the World Heavyweight Championship. Why would you book him to lose?
That was my point. Yeah.
As far as what you guys both said, I agree with a lot of what Adam said about Moose's year and about being the franchise player. I just think that more people had the pedal to the metal as far as booking wise than Moose had throughout the year. You know, all the matches you listed are big matches, and he is that franchise player. I just feel like more people rose up this year and not impressed me more, but I just like the way they were featured more throughout the year than Moose was, except for that first half of the year. So I don't say this a lot. I agree with Mike.
Well, let's see if you continue to agree with me when I talk about a man who, man, this man has no business being on a best of list in 2022. This man paid his dues. This man has been doing this shit forever. What is he doing on this list in 2022? I'm talking about EY himself, Eric Young.
Okay.
Eric
No
Young,
arguments for me here. Eric Young was my number 6 spot.
As was mine. I also had Eric Young at number 6.
Yeah, man. So I'm going to let you list off the accolades, but yeah, this was one that I feel like Eric Young definitely deserves to be on the list. If he had some more high profile wins and matches this year, I think he would have been a top 3 guy.
Eric Young, number 1, led the hottest stable of the year. Almost single-handedly, and that's not taking anything away from Joe or Cody, but he really, that's what that character was. He flat out said, "This isn't about us. This is about me." And you're just here, and I love that. I love everything about the character he's been doing. Love everything about it, and then you throw in the matches, phenomenal matches that only EY can fucking deliver against guys like Jay White, tag team matches with Joe Doring against guys like the Good Brothers, against Decay. Did they not? They won the tag team gauntlet, I believe.
Not only did they win that, but they did also win the tag team championships this year as well. So, I mean, EY did get some gold this year too.
And he that's right too. And EY won the gauntlet for the gold earlier in the year, I believe. He had a great match with Josh earlier. Not only a great match, but that promo, the going into that pay-per-view was phenomenal. Great tag team match against Saban and Kushida. And then guys like Sammy Callahan and Rich Swann. He was just on fire this year. It's not the Eric Young we knew 20 years ago. It's this older, grizzled, hangrier Eric Young, and I love it. I love everything we're getting from EY this year.
I love the fact that you said that Eric was in the hottest faction of the year in Impact Wrestling. And the fact that there could be an argument about that goes to show how strong Impact has booked their factions, between 100%. Violent by Design, between Honor No More, between the Bullet Club, who I think had a great resurgence this year in Impact Wrestling. So. The fact that Eric has taken Violent by Design and arguably could have been the best faction of the year. And at this stage of Eric's career, he's doing, in my opinion, the best work of his career since he's come back to Impact Wrestling. And this year was no exception to that.
Yeah, I think that if Eric Young had maybe not gotten hurt as well, I think this guy, he'd be a top 3 contender. I think his injury set him back a little bit, but the fact that he was able to come back in and integrate himself almost so seamlessly into the product, and continued to manage to have the most, fascinating stories of the year with the company really speaks to his talent outside the ring as well as inside. Eric Young is a guy that you don't even have to have him step foot into the ring to get people interested in what he's doing. And that's a huge skill set, because when he does get in the ring, he's one of the best. And when you put him outside the ring, he's even better. And that is a recipe for success.
And he made that injury work too, because he just cut some phenomenal promos with that injury.
Yeah.
Mike, no heat so far with us on the list. A little bit of Moose
Moose heat.
You're spooky. You're speaking way too soon here.
So
We're
far,
hitting my
so
number
good,
4.
man.
Oh yeah, but we're hitting my number 4, and I know I'm getting it now. If not from you, definitely from Adam. Probably from both. Here we go. My number 4 is the new X Division champion, Trey Miguel.
You're gonna get just applause from me, sir. You ranked you ranked Trey higher than I did. I had Trey, but not by much. I had Trey at number 5. So
I won't lie to you. When I started this list, Trey was my number 2. Like that's how much I love Trey this year. When I started writing names down, he's like Trey number 2. Yeah, makes sense to me. I thought you, Adam. I was expecting to see him in your top 3. I really was. Once I started breaking down his match list and I went and rewatched some of his matches, listen, he had great matches, but he just didn't hold up to some of the other guys, and that was it.
I think for me, the problem with Trey, or the only mark against him, is that he had a bit of a lull in the middle of the. Like, if you look at his year, he started at the top, X Division champion. Went to the springtime. Once he lost the title, he lulled a little bit and just kind of flatlined for a little while. And then at the end of this year, boom, back to being X Division champion again. So unless something drastic happens in the next couple of weeks, he started the year as the X Division champion and he's ending the year as king of the X Division as well. And I mean, that's impressive enough on its own. But like you said, even during the times when he wasn't holding the belt, this was a guy where every time he was in a match, you're like, okay, I'm going to make sure that I'm not going to the bathroom. I'm not getting my popcorn. I'm going to stay in my seat for Trey Miguel's match because we know it's going to be incredible. Anybody out there that's forgotten how damn good this man is, go back to Hard to Kill and watch his match with Steve Macklin. If you're forgetting how good this man is, go back and watch his match with Ace Austin. Go back and watch the triple threat between him, Bailey, and Austin. Go back and watch both the Ultimate X matches that he absolutely excelled in. Go back and watch his matches with Mike Bailey one-on-one. This guy was like a classic machine all year, even when he wasn't holding the championship. His booking is really the only thing that held him back in that little middle part of the year. The summer was not a great summer for Trey Miguel, but everything else surrounding it was superb. So yeah, only because other guys are having better years than him, he would have been higher.
Take all the matches that you just said and then throw on top of that, man, so some sleepers like the match he had with Steve Macklin earlier in the year. He had one of my favorites against Jake something. Just on the weekend, his match with Black Tarus, his match with Alex Shelley, which in my mind is a dream match at this point. So his matches speak for itself. I agree with everything else that you said, though. He kind of had a lull in the summer, and that kind of hurt him. Where, if anywhere, would you have put him on your list, Tyler? Would Trey Miguel not have made your top 7?
So
I'm very surprised. I'm not mad. I'm just surprised.
Listen,
I'm not mad, Tyler. I'm just disappointed.
I got the pleasure to watch Trey Miguel work live this year against Aiden Prince and Destiny Wrestling and meet him after, and I was blown away by him. I went somewhere drastically different for my number 4, but very similar. And I won't say it in case they're on your list, or he's on your list. Sorry. Trey did not make my list purely for the lull in the middle of the year. I have somebody that didn't make I have 2 people that didn't make my list that I know that I'm going to catch heat from you. And I don't care anymore because Trey Miguel didn't make yours. So and it's fair. Listen, if we're talking just purely from an in-ring standpoint, the entire year, Trey Miguel is a top 3 year. But I'm looking at a little bit more for just good matches. And I'm gonna kind of put my foot in my mouth because somebody else that's on my list was just known for having good matches all year, but he was a stronger focal point in the company. And to me, that was a big part.
Just you saying that, I know exactly who you're talking about.
Me too.
Yeah,
me too.
I mean, I don't think we're hiding too much on that one. But to me, just with Trey Miguel, I just thought there was a couple more people that had a more impressive year, and it just goes to show how stacked the Impact roster year was. where Trey slid under my radar. He was my Eddie Edwards, as you said, Adam. He just slid under my radar.
Well, let's you want to talk about impressive years then. Let's move it on and I think it's time to tag him and bag him. My number 3 is Steve Macklin.
My number 3 is also Steve Macklin.
Macklin.
Adam.
Macklin, where did you place Macklin, Adam?
When I made my list initially, based upon just my memories, he was also my number 3.
So
As of right
switched.
now, he was my number 7.
Wow.
Yeah. So
wow. Okay, Okay, go ahead.
no, you go ahead first, Mike. You tell me why you think he's deserves to be that high, and then I'll tell you why I think he's not quite there yet.
Now, I obviously, when I'm making my notes, I didn't write down every match everybody had. I wrote down every match I enjoyed that everybody had. Macklin by far has the larger list of all 7. Out of all 7 guys, the biggest list belongs to Steve Macklin. I'm just going to list off a couple names here, man. Several with Trey Miguel. 2 fucking banger pure wrestling matches with Jonathan Gresham.
I forgot about those.
Right, Eddie Edwards, Rhino, Heath, Alex Shelley, fucking Ishii, for Christ's sake, PCO, James Storm, James motherfucking Storm, Moose, Tommy Dreamer, just last week. Yeah, the list just keeps going and going. He just fucking mowed down on these motherfuckers. I want to say that he's the one guy on my list that went from Steve Who to Steve fucking Macklin. You know what I mean? He's the fastest rising star in Impact right now, I believe.
That's why I have him at my number 3. I didn't know Steve Macklin was coming into this year, and this was his coming out party year. I forgot about the Gresham matches, and I just love that evolution of that heel turn that came out of those. I completely forgot about that. But, this is a guy that Impact clearly sees a bright future in, and the booking was strong for him the whole way through the year. I just am very excited of what next year holds for him. And I mean, the booking was so strong for this guy that earlier in this very show, you both said he could be the guy and should be the guy to beat Josh Alexander for that championship. And that's all because of his work this year alone. So number 3 for me, I think, is the perfect place for him.
All right. So now here's where I'm going to have to go on the defensive and try to justify my position. But I think I have a good argument here for my case. I cannot disagree with anything Mike said about his match quality. Macklin is a star for sure. And Tyler, I can't disagree with anything you said about the guy unquestionably being one of the breakout stars of the year. I think there's probably only one other guy that I'm assuming we're going to talk about next that is the other contender for possibly best breakout guy.
I've learned, Adam, not to assume anything with any of Mike's lists. So
I think I know Mike well enough that I think we know what 1 and 2 are going to be, and that's fine because that's correct.
I am not afraid to use the C word this week if I have to, Mike.
Well, yeah, no, you might be using it on me after this one if the argument isn't strong enough. But here's the thing: I am going to disagree with you about his booking. He did have great matches, and he did have some very specific wins that were important to his career, specifically the 2 that he keeps bringing up, which is the win over Jay White and the win over Sami Callihan in Barbed Wire Massacre. And those were 2 big matches for him. Everything else, he's definitely had way more L's than W's. And there's been a lot of times where if you look at some of the major events for the year, guy wasn't even on the card. He choked in the Call Your Shot. He choked on the Gauntlet for the gold. He choked on a lot of the bigger matches. He didn't even win the reverse battle royal, for God's sake.
Well, I mean that was just made for Shark Boy. Come on.
True. But what I'm saying is that here's the thing. Macklin has been impressive in both his performances and for his level with the company. So here's what I'll say. I know exactly where you guys are coming from because when I formed this list initially in my head, again, he was number 3. But I think if you look deeper into it and you really analyze in terms of his booking and his accomplishments over the year, he's not quite there yet. 2022 was a breakout year for Macklin, which is why he makes the list over a lot of guys in the company that I thought had tremendous years. 2024 or 2023, excuse me. That's the year we're going to see Macklin in a top 3 spot. But for me, I just can't in good conscience put him over a guy like a Trey Miguel who did win championships, who did win marquee matches that were really important this year. I can't put him over a guy like Moose, who was the world champion for half the year. I can't put him over guys who didn't make Mike's list that I honestly think had better showings.
Yeah,
So
I get
look,
that.
I completely respect your guys' opinion where you're coming from on this. I just think that the hype train for Macklin is so high right now that he's got a little bit of a recency bias. And I think if you look at the year as a whole, performance was good. But I think that it's one of those things where there's a little bit of revisionist history from Macklin. And, they say if you tell a lie often enough, it becomes the truth. And I think Macklin spouting off the name Jay White and Sammy Callahan enough times has maybe fooled some people, but not me.
I mean, Chris Jericho's still living off Austin Rock all these years later, but
Good strategy.
I think that the big thing with Macklin for me too was not just his in-ring, because wins and losses are important. Obviously, it's professional wrestling; you want to win, blah 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 blah. But his character development was very intriguing to me this year as well, and that was
He's
a big
phenomenal.
part of my criteria as well. He went from he was like Army Man or something like that when he first started, was that what he was? Army guy, like white meat baby's face, and now he's this whole different
I'll say this. He's definitely evolved in a lot of ways. And like I said before, you will not get any argument from me about his status as one of, if not the breakout star of Impact this year. 100%. Absolutely. Just don't think he had as good a year as a lot of the other guys on my list.
Now, I've been doing this show with Mike for a long time, and I know when he's about to say something that's going to piss everybody off. And I think that we're at that moment, because I got 3 people.
Look, that's great. Anything to take the heat off me right now. Go for it, Mike.
I've got 3 people in my head, and you've only got 2 spots left. So I'm very interested to hear which one.
The man I'm about to talk about is none of those 3. Everything you just said, Adam, with Steve Macklin could be said about the man that did not make my number 2. Let's rip the Band-Aid off. Mike Bailey is not on my list.
Wow.
Mike Bailey is not on my list.
How is Mike Bailey not on your list?
Adam, can I use the credibility word today or no?
No.
Well, wait a minute. Let's hear his argument. Let's hear his argument for this, because this shocks me.
For a lot of the reasons of what you just said about Macklin, to me, Bailey had phenomenal matches, and to me that was it. I didn't see any character development. I didn't see any story. I didn't see a lot of things I'm looking for in Impact right now. Me personally, of what I'm looking for in Impact, I didn't see in Mike Bailey's development this year. Not to mention, he only came halfway through the fucking year.
No, he did.
So he was there last year.
He made his debut at Hard to Kill.
Really? Did he?
He did. In a phenomenal 4-way match with the X Division. Yeah.
Wow.
That guy's been killing it since day 1 of the year.
Wow. When I'm making this list, Bailey was a thought. He was never a thought for the top 3, and he just kind of got pushed off. And wow. the man that is in my number 2, I think neither of one of you gave him consideration, and it's gonna take me a lot of work to convince you, and I may not do that, but you know what? I'm okay with that, because I truly believe that he should be in this spot. I'm just going to go for it. My number 2 is Alex Shelley.
Okay, so you go ahead and make the case, and I want to see what you have to say about this.
Alex Shelley had the majority of my favorite matches this year, the vast majority. Alex Shelley went up against guys like Jay White, had phenomenal tag teams, tag matches, as he always does, against guys like Bay and White. Matches against Macklin, Bailey, Honor No More, Trey McGow, the Good Brothers, Josh, his own partner in Sabin, Taven, Aussie Open, Cardona. The list just keeps going on and on. He did not have a bad match all fucking year, and he comes in first time in what, like 4 years. We haven't seen this man in Impact. He comes back and just kills it every fucking week, whether he's in there by himself or with his tag team partner. I'm sorry, go ahead.
He was an Impact sooner than 4 years.
Oh, I might be wrong on the 4 year part, but it wasn't like he was gone. He was good for it.
Yeah.
He was gone for a handful of years, though. I pulled 4 out of my ass. Maybe it was 3. Who knows? But the fact is, he comes back, and it wasn't just for this like nostalgic Motor City run. He made a run for the title. He did this great story with with Sabin, where it's like, you've had this, it's my turn, and he beats Sabin to go for Josh. Cuts one of the best promos of the fucking year against Josh, and then goes and has one of my favorite matches of the year against Josh. For my money, and this is my list. Listen, if he's not on your list, it's only because you're just not watching Alex Shelley the way, through my eyes. You're not watching him the way that I saw him this year, and that's fine and dandy. I'm not going to argue with you guys thinking that Bailey should be up there. But for my money, when I'm watching Impact this year, Alex Shelley did it for me.
Well, here's what I'll say about that. Number one, excellent argument. Mike, you actually kind of convinced me that you actually put him at a good spot. I'll tell you the place I put him on the list, because I did put Alex Shelley on my list.
Wow. I'm okay. Good.
I had Machine Guns as well.
But yes, but I did cheat.
Me
And
too.
you had the Machine Guns.
Me
And
too.
I just don't think Sabin was as on as Shelley was this year.
So allow me to make my argument for that then, because I put them at number 4 together.
Okay.
And here's the reason why I would put them together. So much of their year was as a team, and so many of their accomplishments were as a team as well. But here's the reason I'm going to put them as together, because I think if you look at them, they both had a very similar year. Now, while Shelley did have easily the most high profile match of the two of them against Josh Alexander, I think everybody is kind of forgetting that Chris Sabin had a match of the year candidate against Jonathan Gresham right out the gate at Hard to Kill. Chris Sabin had that incredible one-on-one match with Steve Macklin at Slammiversary. Chris Sabin led the charge with Team Impact against Honor No More in the first half of the year, when, I want to point out, Shelley really wasn't around. And that's another reason why I couldn't put Shelley in there as a solo guy, is that the dude was just not there consistently the way Sabin was. And Sabin was there both as a singles guy and as a tag team guy. Now, yes, hard to argue that Alex Shelley did not have the best singles run of his career in Impact this year. Jay White matches, Mike Bailey matches, the Josh Alexander match you talked about, even a few that I had forgotten about until you went on your little I want to say a rant or a tirade, but that's not what it was. It was an argument. It was a very good one, I might add. So here's what I'll say. I think that Alex Shelley probably deserves to be higher than where I put him. And you convinced me of that. So well done. Great argument with that. Number 2, I don't know, but I'll say this. You're making me doubt myself. So I'll still say this. You deserve you deserve a Barry Horowitz, sir, because
you both are doing the same for me, because I am thinking that maybe I should have knocked Eddie Edwards off and had Bailey in that spot. But I don't think Bailey would have done any better than the 6th spot for me.
Well, you know what? I don't know about if I agree with you on that one. I think just because so much of the focus was on Bailey this year, especially in that latter half, and he did that through his work. Now, yeah, I'll definitely agree with you that the guy didn't have a lot in terms of character development or great storylines, but I think that what Bailey did for Impact, that I think puts him at a number 2 spot for me personally, is that he put eyes on the product And whenever Bailey went out of Impact and was out there representing the company, he was having the banger matches of the night. Like we talked about that WrestleMania weekend where he was out there wrestling how many times that weekend?
I think it was like 15 matches.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. And every match he had was better than the last one. And he was a guy that was putting eyes on the product. And when he was out there doing the open challenges for the X Division, bringing in guys from other companies and other outside territories to challenge him, he's a guy that was like, hey, Ring of Honor fans, I'm going to take on your boy Delirious. You want to see what our X Division is about? Mike Bailey's going to be the guy to do it. I just think that he brought something, and you know what? You can call it an X factor, you can call it an intangible, but there was something special about Mike Bailey this year. And this is why I would put him over a guy like Macklin too, is that I think this was the best year that Bailey could possibly have had. I don't know that he has the momentum to go into 2023 and have the same kind of banger year or better that he had this year, specifically because of what you said, Mike, which is that he does not have the personality or the stories yet behind him.
Yes.
Whereas a guy like Macklin, he's ready, man. And
100%.
he's proven that guy has got 6 more gears in him ready to friggin' go. So here's what I'll say. You've definitely convinced me that Alex Shelley not only deserves to be on that list, but maybe a little bit higher than I ranked him for sure. But I'm still gonna fight you on Bailey. I think the dude deserves to be on the list.
Yeah,
I'll go for that one.
I do think that it is a disservice that you don't have him on your list anywhere, because the guy for me is in contention for not only Impact Wrestler of the Year, but for Wrestler of the Year in general. I just think he's had such a great year. The WrestleMania weekend, like you said.
Yeah, man, his match with Kaz was one of my favorite, hands down, of the year.
Yeah,
For sure.
To me, Speedball Mike Bailey this year is what Josh Alexander was 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, where before he was in that world title picture, Josh didn't have a character. He just came out and wrestled, and everybody took notice at him. And he impressed every week and then became the world champion. To me, that's what Speedball Mike Bailey's blueprint has been this year. He took that X Division title.
Keep going. What?
I think Speedball Mike Bailey just came into the room and kicked Mike in the face.
All right, sorry for the delay. Something scared me. I peed. I had
Oh,
you
man.
okay?
Off camera here, everybody. I just made Mike a big point to be like, listen, we're professional. I said, I just need an edit point, Mike. So just, I was in the middle of a point. Just give me an edit point. That was the greatest return in Counted Out history. I am so happy right now. Oh, that made me pop.
Excuse me, folks. I peed a little. Pardon me.
That made me pop, and I am leaving all that in.
Let's start bringing this home. I want to ask you both a question.
Hold on, can I just want to go back to our point here with Bailey. I do I do think that Bailey deserves to be on the list, but like I said, I think he's following the Josh Alexander blueprint where he's letting his in-ring work let him take notice. And I do really hope that next year we get to see him in more of a feud, something more long-term, something that gets him irked. I don't know, but I do think that that's in the cards for him next year. And I do think that if they do give him that, Adam, to go back to your point, that we could see him match, maybe even excel this year, because he's got the talent to do it. That's my.
I think he's going to get an opportunity with the KING sooner rather than later. So we'll keep our eyes open for that.
Oh, my
now, I may have upset you with my number 2. I'm not going to upset you with my number 1. Probably going to infuriate you with my number 1, but I believe that I'm right. I believe in Joe Hendry.
No, you're not. Come on.
My question to you both: did anybody here not choose Josh Alexander as the best performer in 2022?
Sometimes the most obvious answer is the right one.
Yeah, that's
correct.
Josh, there's a reason Josh has that strap around him. Josh is putting on the best matches. Josh has really come out as a character as well. You made that point earlier. Everything I said about Bailey, you said that was Josh a couple years ago, Tyler. And you're right. You're not wrong. After the North kind of broke up, you saw where the charisma in the North was, and that was in Ethan Page, not in Josh Alexander. And I think people doubted Josh as
I was worried.
I
was worried about
I don't
him.
think anybody thought Josh could be the man. And in the last year, especially since he came back at Rebellion, since Rebellion and now he's really become this character in the face of this company. And his matches alone will put him in this spot. But take that away and just give him the story he's told this year, the stories he's told with Moose, the stories he's told with Eric Young, the stories he's told with Honor No More, the stories he's told with Alex Shelley. Phenomenal. And now we're ending the year with this great story with Bully Ray.
I think if you made a list of the 5 best matches of the year, Josh would probably have 3 of those spots in the top 5.
I'm not going to fight you on that one.
And if he made a top 10, he'd probably have closer to 7.
And to go back to my point with Bailey, we saw Josh get those storylines this year that he didn't have last year. Last year was just all about him and TJP and Ace Austin just tearing the house down and bringing me back to those AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, Samoa Joe's X Division matches. And this year we got to see him sink his teeth into some storylines. We got that great Moose one. We got the Shelley promos. We got the Eric Young stuff where, the Eric Young one, especially for us being Canadian, really felt
that
great.
Was a great moment. Yeah.
Because Eric Young was like the king of independent wrestling in Ontario for a long time.
Eric Young is what Josh became years later.
That's right. That's right. And it's what guys like Flares and Von Vertigo are becoming now. And I mean, take your pick of what it's becoming now. There's so many fantastic Toronto independent wrestlers, but this was no question. Josh Alexander also in contention for Wrestler of the Year in professional wrestling.
I want to list off some matches he had this year, and then I want to talk about my personal dark horse that is, it's not the match of the year by any means, but it's probably my favorite that he's done. Now let's get the obvious out of the way. His matches with Frankie Kazarian, his matches with his match with Alex Shelley, his matches with Moose, his match with Ishii, his match with Eric Young, his match with Bobby Fish. All phenomenal matches. His match with Eddie Edwards, great match. All phenomenal matches. And this is just an Impact. This man's been working every fucking weekend on the indie scene too. You know what I mean? Like this guy
popped up in Barry Wrestling, man.
Yes, he did.
Destiny Wrestling heavyweight champion as well. Former.
This man can take a loss to Alexia Nicole and make it look great. This is what makes him one of the best. I'll tell you my dark horse though. My 2 favorite matches he did this year. One is a 6-man tag he did with the Briscoes versus Violent by Design. I thought that was a phenomenal story, a great match. But my favorite dark horse match of the year that I don't think enough people talked about for some reason was his match with Joe Doring. Him and Joe tore it the fuck down.
Was that recent? I haven't seen that. I must have missed that.
It was the main event of Against All Odds.
Thank you.
I will go back to hunt that down because I am a big fan of Mr. Joe Henry.
Let me tell you right now too, if Joe didn't have to leave under such unfortunate circumstances, I'm not 100% sure that Joe would not be on my list right now.
Joe Doring?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. You said Joe Henry, and I was like, "Wow, I missed that one."
I said Joe Henry.
Yeah.
I said Joe. I said Joe Doring.
Did you?
I think you're crazy. Yes.
The tape will
I
tell,
do
folks.
believe in Joe Hendry, but this is Joe Hendry. This is Joe Doring.
Mike said Joe Hendry. He meant Joe Doring. Tyler, you thought he was talking about Samoa Joe, and I thought he was talking about Joe Na, who also had a great match with Alexander. Look, the point we're making is Josh Alexander hates people named Joe. All right, that's the point we're making.
So Mike, I want to ask you about what, in my opinion, is a big miss that's not on your list this year,
Okay.
and that's PCO.
I just don't consider that a big miss. I listen, you know I love me some PCO. I don't see what you saw in him in 2022. You and I discussed this earlier in the year. How I said several times I thought they were dropping the ball with PCO. He was the one in that faction I didn't think they were getting right. You know, when he was coming out with his faction, he was a heel. The very next week, he's teaming up with W. Morrissey. Why? It made no sense. His booking sucked. I didn't enjoy what they did with him for half the year. So no, he wasn't even a consideration for me.
I actually had PCO as my number 4 on the year.
Listen, he's a phenomenal performer, and I love him to death. And I wish I could have even considered him. And I'm not going to fault you for putting him on your list, but no, for me, man, not even a consideration.
I'll fault you for putting him on the list. I don't think he had as good a year as any of the guys we've talked about on the list prior. But I will say this, though, Mike, I also disagree with your assertion that he was not handled well, especially within Honor No More. I actually think he's the guy that has come out the strongest out of that story. And to be fair, and to his credit, that a lot is PCO in the sense that every single time that guy went out there and gave his all in a match, he was the guy we were all talking about. Let me tell you something right now. This may seem not like a big deal, but when you apply it to the bigger picture, I think it really says something in that anytime Matt Sukram, who became an Impact fan this year because of my pestering and forcing him to watch these shows, PCO, I think, is his favorite wrestler because every time we would watch a PCO match, he would just look at me and say, how is that guy alive? I don't understand how he's able to do the things that he does. And
how is he almost 60 years old?
Well, that's what I mean. And every single time he would go out there, he would put on a match that was like a career highlight. Like, I will go on record as saying, I think this year in Impact for PCO has been his best career year. In terms of what he's done as a singles competitor as PCO. I know you guys are big Ring of Honor fans and everything.
Yeah.
But
I would say this is number 2 for me for him. I think that year where he won the Ring of Honor World title was number 1 for me,
Same.
but I thought this was really, really close to it.
But here's the thing, though. I'll say this. I could probably name you a handful of matches that PCO had this year that will stick with me. I can't really name anything that he did in Ring of Honor during that year that stood out. Now, maybe that's just because I'm not as big of a Ring of Honor fan and I'm more of an Impact guy. But I mean, look, when I first sculpted my own list, like, again, just based upon my own mental memories, PCO was number 4 on my list as well. Now, once I went back and did a little bit of research and thought about the matches, like I said, I couldn't in all good conscience put him on the list. He is 100% an honorable mention for me because I think the guy had a career highlight year. Honestly, I think that his matches with Luke Gallows, his Monsters Ball match with Jonah, the stuff he did with Josh Alexander in the tag match and during the multiverse of matches, everything that Jonah or that PCO did, I thought from a performance standpoint was top notch. Again, yeah, I don't know, Mike. I can't agree with you in that he came out smelling worse in this one. And when he comes back with Eddie Edwards and they eventually do their blood feud, and I'm assuming they're going to build up to some sort of buried alive match based upon what we've seen from TV lately. It's going to be incredible. I can't wait to see what PCO does the next year. And I think that shows you what kind of a great year he had in 2022. I'm a guy that says, man, I can't wait for PCO to get back on my TV so I can sit there and watch him die in the middle of the ring on my television screen.
To me with PCO, like you said, Adam, his matches with Jonah and his storyline with Honor No More of him being, the odd man out and being talked down to. Like, I just personally, I love that type of storyline, the slow burning face turn. You can't wait for him to explode. It was like a lesser version of the Batista.
I like that too, but he shouldn't be, playing a heel and then playing with the faces at the same time. It just,
but he was
I just
portrayed
didn't.
as like he was
It's so
doing
me out of that.
babyface things in Honor No More,
Yeah,
right? Like
I
that,
know, I
I
know.
liked it. It worked for me. I don't like the flip floppy shit. I agree with what you're saying, but I think in this instant, when I go back and I think about it and I see the big picture of the way that everything worked out, I actually do like it with him because he was a baby face in a heel group, if that makes sense. You know what I mean? Like, yes, he was a heel, but they treated him like how you would treat the baby face, like, you know, in Ring of Honor, they did it with Bobby Dempsey. It happened with Batista and Evolution, like that. You know, the crowd was behind him, waiting for him to be like, "I'm sick of your shit," and I was cool with that,
All
and I
right.
like
Okay.
that. Like, I that was for me. That's why he hit my number 4. I enjoyed that build.
All right. I'll start with Adam with this, and then I want to go to you, Tyler. Other than Mike Bailey and PCO, is there anybody that I did not talk about today that you feel that I really overlooked?
No, I don't think so. Like, I mean, legitimately, with the exception of Ed Edwards and Mike Bailey, swapped. You and I had the same names on the list, so I think
Correct.
everybody you chose for the list was correct. Obviously, we did have a couple of differences towards the top of the list.
Right.
But honestly, if you look at our numbers, we're actually pretty close to the same page. So, no, definitely not. I think that you made the right calls in terms of the people you had on there, and even your biggest quote unquote transgression, you kind of sold me on. So man, your list gets a thumbs up from me. So there's a couple of names that I'm gonna want to shout out during the honorable mentions
Of
just to
course.
give them a
Yeah.
pop. But otherwise, nah, man, I thought you did a good job. Gold star for you.
Any, any
I have
glaring omissions, Tyler?
I will never, I won't use the word glaring omission because I actually really enjoyed your list and I was on board for most of it as well. I just have a personal deep cut that I put on my list. And I don't fault anybody for not having it on their list because I understand that I think people may have had better years than these guys. But to me, I put Chris Bay and Ace Austin on my list. I thought
They're
that
definite. They're definite honorable mentions for me, for sure.
I thought that these guys had an incredible year, both as individuals and then forming their tag team. I thought that they were a very big reason, which breathed a lot of new life into the Bullet Club. And you know, with Ace Austin especially, he was in the Super Juniors tournament. Now they're both in the tag team Super Juniors tournament over in New Japan. I thought that everything they did in Impact was a home run. And I thought that it was just such a perfect combo of them going into the Bullet Club where it elevated both people and made me give a shit about both of them more
Yes.
than I did before. And for
I
that
think they
reason
could have.
alone, I put them on my list.
I think they could have found something to do with Ace Austin. I really do, but I think Chris Bay was starting to flounder,
Mhm.
and they found this place for Chris Bay that made people care about him again. Which, thank God, because Chris Bay is one of the most talented guys on that roster. Chris Bay deserves to be watched every week, and you can't get a better tag partner than Ace Austin, really.
Yeah.
And when you don't have Ace Austin, who's he got? He's got Juice Robinson. He's got the Good Brothers. He's got Jay White.
Yeah.
He's a good fucking company.
You know,
I think the Volt Club is a great spot for Chris Bay, and Ace Austin fits in like a glove.
I to go to your point though, you know, with Chris Bay floundering, Ace Austin was kind of at a fork in the road himself. You know, his team with
Yeah.
Fulton had kind of run its course. He had done the X Division title already. I think this was a great place for him to fit as well. I just think that this was like a perfect storm, and for me and for that reason, I put them on my list. I don't have a spot. I don't know between 7 and 5 because I just couldn't finalize
Yeah.
it in the amount of time, but they were on my list for sure.
It killed me that neither man even got a sniff of my list. They didn't even make honorable mentions. And I think it's just because if their matches had been a little bit more high profile,
Yes.
I think I probably could have given it to him. Like Ace Austin had the X Division belt for a cup of coffee. And if they had pulled the trigger on his story with Mike Bailey, I think maybe he could have squeaked his way into my number 7 spot. But honestly, these are two guys that have just got so much talent, just boatloads of talent. And I think this was a case of these Impact kind of threw up their hands and we're like, we just don't really know what to do with these guys. Once they formed their tag team, I think they realized, oh, there's something here. And I've gone on record, and I'll go on record again as saying that I feel like Ace Austin and Trey Miguel are this generation's AJ Styles. Miguel for his selling and Ace Austin for his maneuvers. Chris Bay, I feel like, is another, like, has the potential to be like a Shawn Michaels level performer. That guy has just got all the tools to be something special. So I really hope either they become recognized as one of the best tag teams in the world, or they take this and parlay it into bigger singles pushes for them. I don't think 2022 was either man's year, but I think 2023, 2024, and beyond, it's always a possibility for those two sweet boys.
I could see some tag team gold in their future next year, especially if they have an impressive showing in this Super Juniors tag tournament.
I'll say we better see some tag team gold for those two guys next year.
Mike, who was the hardest person that you left off your list?
Bailey. Mike Bailey was the only one that I struggled with, to be perfectly honest. There was nobody else that, when I wrote down my original names, like, okay, these are the people that are contending for the list. Mike Bailey was the only one like, shit, where am I going to fit him? Nobody else really came that close to the list for me personally. Is there other people that I wish could have made it? Well, that's what the honorable mentions are for. And I'll get there in a minute, but I want to hear Adam's first. I'm really curious about Adam's honorable mentions.
Honestly, there's a couple of guys that I think had a real banner year, but just didn't achieve as much as all the other standouts that we talked about before. And the guy at the top of my list is Brian Myers. The guy had a great run with the Digital Media Championship this year. I think, the phenomenal story he did with W. Morrissey kind of gets forgotten, but I'll tell you something, him coming out with his own commentary table and the toys and avoiding getting put through that table every single week, that was some entertaining shit, man. And like, that guy goes so under the radar sometimes. I honest to God think Brian Myers is the most underrated performer on the Impact roster. That guy can do everything that's asked of him and more. Again, you guys know how much I love that guy. I think he's definitely one of the reasons that I watch the show every single week. He had a great year. And I think it just kind of flew under the radar a little bit, but which is unfortunate because I think he was really underappreciated. So Brian Myers is at the top of my honorable mentions. Yeah. If there was anybody else I would put on there, I think just because of his consistency, I'd put Black Taurus on there. He had a real slow burn build. And I think that heading into 2023, he could have a really great year. 2022, he didn't get a lot of wins. He didn't get a lot of big wins, but he built a lot of momentum. And I think that was good for him. So he had a really solid year. He wasn't there for a long time, but I will say this. I think in the first half of the year, Jonah was huge for Impact.
Yeah.
I was not okay. I was expecting Morrissey, but okay.
Morrissey did have a good year, but honestly, I think Jonah had a better year.
I agree with that.
Had a great match with Alexander, had great matches with PCO, came in and did business on his way out. I think that dude, I'll tell you this. I love Willie Mack. The Influence is one of my favorite tag teams, but the guy that leaving the departure that hit me the hardest from Impact this year was Jonah, just because God dang it, he did so good and he had such potential. So yeah, man, I like Jonah a lot. And if he had stuck around longer, he probably would have made my list. Sami Callihan just came back too late in the year for me to put him on. But ever since the guy came back, he's another franchise player. He's another guy like Moose, where he does so well every time he goes out there that you don't really need to put focus on him because he draws you in himself. So he's very much in that same Moose spot where even if the guy's working on top, you tend to forget about him just because he's so damn good and so consistently good that you just kind of expect it from him, which kind of works to his detriment sometimes. And the one guy that I really went back and forth on just because he was there and then he wasn't, and then he was there and every time he was there, though, he was so damn good. I'm gonna put the Switchblade Jay White on there
Yeah,
because
he's on my honorables.
again, not here for most of the latter half of the year, but banger with Eric Young, banger with Alex Shelley. The promo that he cut with Bullet Club against Honor No More was one of my favorite promos of the year. Was so damn entertaining, further proving that Jay White is maybe the most underrated heel in wrestling today. The fact that they let them do the turn of the Tonga brothers, of the Gorillas of Destiny on Impact.
Yeah.
Like huge. And that's all Jay White, man. Again, you can't sit there and say that he did not have a great banner year in Impact Wrestling. If I'll say this, if he had gotten the match against Alexander at Slammiversary as I thought they were going to do, he would be on my list this year. Just a great performer. God, I wish he much like Jonah. I wish he would have stuck around a little bit longer. But those are my honorable mentions.
Yeah, it's good. I've got just 3. None of them would have made my list, but I just think that they all deserve a little bit of rub for good work that they did this year. I actually have Heath as one of my honorable mentions.
Yeah,
I
he's
thought
on mine too.
I thought he did a great job in that Honor No More feud and just
The
constantly
story
good
he
promos.
told, I loved it.
Yeah. I also put the Good Brothers on my list for honorable mentions. I just think if they were there for this whole year, I think they would have made my list. And this one's for you, Mike. And again, it's just a case of they weren't here long enough. The Briscoe brothers.
Briscoes. You basically just listed off my honorable mentions, and all these honorable mentions is because they weren't around long enough. The Briscoes put on some great matches. So did the Goods, even with each other. Some of my favorite stories of the early year were the mid year were with those two teams. Another person on my honorable mentions is because he wasn't here long enough, and that's Matt Cardona. The stuff Matt did in the beginning of the year, he was on route to being one of the big guys. He really was before he got injured. And the rest of my honorable mention list, and this includes Cardona, is just a list of the people I think we really need to look out for in 23. And I think Cardona is on that list. I think Cardona is going to be a major player in 23. I also think Black Taurus is going to be a major player in 23. I know he just showed up, and I know it's probably just because I'm a big fan of his work in ROH. But I'm going to tell you right now, I do believe in Joe Dor. I do believe in Joe Hendry, and I think he's going to be a big star in 23. I really do. And the other Joe, fingers crossed that Joe Doring is able to come back in 23 because he was on track to being a massive star. I think so. What's going on right now? I think that was supposed to be Joe's spot. I think it was going to be Joe turning on Eric and Joe turning face on Eric. I really do. Now it's going to be Eric doing the face thing with Cody as the heel, which I think is the right way to go. If Joe was still in the group, though, I think Joe as a baby face right now would be phenomenal. Joe Doring has fucking star power written all over him.
He's a former multi-time All Japan Pro Wrestling champion, if I'm not mistaken.
Goddamn right he is. Yeah. So yeah, those are my main honorable mentions, and we didn't even get to talk about the women. That tells you something.
My list would have been
very. If we were talking about Jordan Grace, Mickey James, Masha Slamovich, Chelsea Green, Donna Perazzo, and the list goes on and on. If we talk about any of those women, this list would be so fucking different.
Don't you dare sleep on my girl Tasha Steeles. Okay.
I think that the reason why you chose to do the men's list this week is because it was probably way easier to do a men's list than a women's list.
100%.
Because the women are the MVPs. That the knockout division is the MVP of Impact Wrestling.
Unquestionably.
Yeah.
So Adam, I enjoyed doing this with you today. As always, thank you for joining us. And I would like to offer you a personal invite to come back for our year-end show to discuss a moment on that.
Hey man, I've been happy to do it in the past, and again, anytime you guys want me on there, I have a pretty okay mic now, so yeah, I'm happy to jump back on and share my thoughts on anything you guys want.
All right, but I'm gonna throw a swerve at you. It's not going to be an Impact Wrestling moment. That's all I'm gonna say, people. That's all
Put
I'm
me
gonna
out of
say.
my comfort zone. All right, that's
Gotta
okay. I
make
like
you-
a challenge. I
Gotta
like a
make you
challenge.
gotta make you squirm. Mike, you got anything else you want to say before we take it home?
I'm just hoping nobody else scares me before we go
Oh my
off air,
god,
and
that is
then we're
going to
fine.
be in the counted out best of reels forever. I will clip that. I'm going to put it all over social media. That was amazing.
Fantastic. No, do your regular thing, guys. Hit all our socials, Facebook, Twitter, as long as we decide to have it. Twitter's weird. Instagram, we're all over the Instagram. Hit countout7.com. Please do our friends a favor over at Bear Wrestling. Go to IWTV. Check out. They just put their newest show out there.
It is
Banger of a
good.
show.
It
You're
is
gonna love
really
it.
good.
And of course, we can't stress this enough. I don't care where you live in this province. Getting your goddamn car on December the 4th and drive to Mississauga. Destiny Wrestling presents Homecoming. This is their first show. Excuse me. This is the first show under the new management. We will be there. This is the first show under the new beautiful relationship, partnership, whatever you want to call it, between Counted Out and Destiny Wrestling. I can't wait to see what the future lies with between our two companies, and all the best wrestlers in Ontario are going to be at that show.
Just
You know,
just to name a couple matches there, Mike. You got the Destiny World Champion Aiden Prince going up against Blake Christian. Warhorse is going to be on the card, taking on Shane Saber. Steve Macklin is going to be on the card. And of course, the one that I'm most excited for, Alexia Nicole versus Two Scoops, Casey Spinelli. Going to be a banger match. Flight or Fight will be on the card as well, taking on Airstrike. This is going to be a great card, and I'm very excited to go to my first official Destiny Wrestling card.
Man, I can't wait. We're here on the ground floor for the brand new Destiny Wrestling. It's really fun for us. So get your tickets. They're going to sell fast. December 4th, Mississauga, the Don Call Arena. Other than that, I think we're all good. On behalf of what I thought would have been a very indecisive list, a very heat-ridden list, and it wasn't. I didn't get any heat today, and I'm very, very impressed with myself.
You got heat for Speedball.
Well, not too much heat, though. Like, you didn't use the C word, and
I'm thinking it. We have company. I was on my best behavior.
Yeah, you really were, and I appreciate that. And on behalf of your manners, we have been counted out.
Cheers.